She didn't ignore you by accident. She did it to see if you chase. And you did. You waited. You typed. You deleted. You explained. You begged for breadcrumbs when you were the whole damn loaf. You gave your time, your focus, your attention. You gave her everything, hoping she'd finally give you something back. And guess what? She didn't. Because she didn't have to. You see, the moment you chase, you teach her to run. And the harder you run after her, the faster she realizes you don't value yourself. Because a man who truly values himself doesn't beg to be seen. He becomes impossible to ignore. This video isn't about hate. It's not about revenge. It's not even about women. It's about you. And the moment you wake up to the truth that chasing is killing your power, you start becoming unstoppable. You don't need another lesson in heartbreak. You need a blueprint for reclaiming your energy. Not by texting first, not by explaining your worth, but by replacing the chase with clarity, with silence, with purpose. Because when you stop running after her, you start running toward yourself. And the man who chooses that path, he never has to chase again. You didn't start chasing because you're weak. You started chasing because you were conditioned to believe that love is earned, that you had to do more, say more, prove more, show more. You were taught that if someone pulls away, it's your job to pull harder. If she goes silent, you should speak louder. If she's cold, warm her with your effort. You believe that staying means strength, that giving means love, that suffering means loyalty. But here's the brutal truth. You don't chase what respects you. You chase what confuses you, what wounds you, what leaves you guessing. Because somewhere deep inside, you think you deserve to hurt a little, to be loved at all. Let that sink in. You're not chasing her. You're chasing your own unhealed patterns. The version of you that thinks peace has to be paid for. So you keep explaining. You keep waiting. You keep thinking, if I just say the right thing, she'll understand. If I just stay calm, she'll see my worth. But she doesn't. Because the moment she knew you were willing to suffer, just to keep her, she stopped respecting you. You see, there's nothing attractive about a man who puts himself last. No matter how good your heart is, if you keep handing it to someone who drops it every time, that's not love. That's self-abandonment. And the crazy part? You think she's the one hurting you. But the truth is, you're doing it to yourself. Every time you reach out when it's not returned. Every time you shrink just to keep peace. Every time you lower your standards. So she doesn't walk away. You're the one walking away from yourself. That's what chasing is. It's a man abandoning his power to prove he's worthy of being chosen. But real men don't chase. They attract. Not by shouting. Not by pleading. But by becoming. By becoming the kind of man who doesn't tolerate confusion. Who doesn't beg for clarity. Who doesn't stay where he's not seen. Because when you finally stop chasing, you start healing. You start rebuilding your identity around purpose, not people. You start defining your worth by your discipline, not her attention. And the moment you choose yourself over the one who keeps breaking you, you become untouchable. Not because you're cold, but because you're finally whole. And wholeness doesn't chase chaos. It watches it walk away. In silence. You think your chasing shows love. That it proves you're real. Loyal. Strong. But that's not what she sees. She sees something else entirely. She sees a man trying to earn what should be freely given. She sees a man who doubts himself, who puts her on a pedestal, who has no idea how rare he really is. Every text you send, she reads as desperation. Every double message screams insecurity. Every apology for being too much confirms you believe you are. She doesn't see strength. She sees lack. Not because you're weak, but because you're available on demand. Emotionally, constantly, predictably. And the truth? Predictable men don't create attraction. They create comfort. And comfort gets replaced. She doesn't wake up wondering about you. She knows you'll be there. She knows you'll text. She knows you'll wait. There's no mystery. No polarity. No edge. And deep down, that makes her restless. Not because you're bad. Not because you're not enough. But because she doesn't feel the energy she was biologically wired to respond to. Centered masculine detachment. See, women don't respect men who chase. They respect men who move. Men who can say, "I'm not here to audition. I am the role." Men who aren't shaken by silence, space, distance, or delay. Men who understand that pressure reveals everything and never applies it themselves. When you chase, she sees you react. When you react, you show her she controls the frame. And the man who gives away the frame loses the game. Because it's never about being nice. It's about being solid. Nice bends. Solid stands. Nice explains. Solid observes. Nice overtexts. Solid lets silence speak. And silence always says more than overthinking ever could. If you think chasing her will win her over, you already lost. Because no woman feels pulled toward the man who's always running toward her. She feels pulled by the man she has to move toward. The one who leaves space. The one who chooses peace. The one who doesn't chase. Because he's already enough. So stop thinking she doesn't see your heart. She sees it. But when you offer it too quickly, too easily, without her earning a single piece of it, she doesn't feel lucky. She feels power. And when someone feels power over you, they lose respect for you. Not because they're cruel, but because they're human. Attraction lives in tension, in balance, in the mystery of a man who could have anyone, but chooses discipline over validation. So when she sees you chasing, she doesn't think, "Wow, what a good man." She thinks, "If he's chasing me this hard, what does that say about him?" And that thought alone breaks everything you were trying to build. There comes a moment when you stop begging to be seen and start building a life that can't be ignored. That's the shift. That's when the chase ends. Not because she finally responded, but because you no longer need her to. You've replaced the need for attention with intention. You've replaced waiting for a text with working on yourself. You've replaced late nights of overthinking with early mornings of purpose. And you know what happens then? Peace enters. Not the fake kind. Not the "I don't care" mask you wore before. The real kind. The kind that comes when you know you're no longer a prisoner of her reaction. You're no longer thinking, "Did I say too much? Should I wait a bit longer? Maybe if I show I care, she'll change." No. You stopped asking questions she never earned the right to answer. Because now, you're not seeking closure. You're creating clarity. You're not asking to be picked. You're building so much value that anyone who doesn't choose you simply disqualifies themselves. That's power. And that power? It doesn't come from pain. It comes from replacement. You replace the impulse to chase with the discipline to stay still. You replace the urge to fix her with the commitment to fix yourself. You replaced confusion with boundaries, with silence, with movement. That's the difference between men who keep running in circles and men who rise. They replace, not plead. Because when you plead, you lower your frequency to match what hurt you. But when you replace, you elevate it and watch what doesn't belong fall away. It's not heartless. It's honest. You're not turning cold. You're getting clear. You're not playing games. You're choosing not to play theirs. And maybe she'll notice. Maybe she'll try again. But this time, you're not reacting. You're not chasing. You're not returning to a place. You outgrew in silence. You've evolved. And that version of you, that once begged, explained, waited, he's been replaced. Replaced by a man who builds, who leads, who walks. Not to prove anything, but because he finally knows. There's no peace in chasing what keeps breaking you, and no future in proving your worth to someone who could never see it. You don't need to chase. When you know who you are, you don't explain. You don't beg. You don't overthink. Because the man you've become moves differently. He doesn't lead with words. He leads with energy. He walks into a room and doesn't look for approval. He brings clarity, presence, silence. And that silence, it's not empty. It's full. Full of intention. Full of self-respect. Full of quiet strength. This man doesn't chase women. He attracts them. But not because he's trying. Because he's focused. Because he's building. Because he doesn't have time to prove anything to people who don't see his worth. He's not on his phone wondering what she thinks. He's not replaying the conversation. He's not stalking her profile. He's out there becoming sharper, calmer, stronger, wiser. And that energy, it speaks louder than any message ever could. You want to know the real secret? The man who doesn't chase doesn't do it to get her back. He does it because he found something better. Himself. And once he does, she notices. Not because he played a trick, but because he finally broke the cycle. She feels the shift, the absence, the change in tone. She goes to send that hey text, but hesitates. Because something's different now. He's no longer available. Not emotionally. Not mentally. Not spiritually. Not for someone who couldn't value him when he gave freely. Because this man has standards. He has direction. He has peace. And peace doesn't chase chaos. Peace doesn't beg to be kept. So he lets go. Not out of bitterness, but out of alignment. He's walking a path that only few will understand. The path of silence. The path of purpose. The path of true masculinity. It's not soft. It's not loud. It just is. Rooted. Certain. Still. And this man? He doesn't need closure. He doesn't need revenge. He doesn't need to be remembered. Because he remembers who he is. And that's more than enough. You stopped chasing. And nothing burned down. In fact, everything got quiet. Everything got clear. Because when you walked away, you didn't lose her. You found you. You found the man underneath the noise. The man you forgot when you made her the mission. The man who doesn't flinch when he's ignored. Who doesn't beg to be chosen. Who doesn't run after what walks away. You became him. The man who replaces confusion with clarity. Drama with distance. Waiting with building. And now, you're not looking back. You're not wondering what if. You're not explaining why you left. Because the man who moves in silence doesn't need to prove anything. His peace speaks. His presence speaks. His life speaks. And she hears it now, louder than any message you ever sent. But it's too late. You're gone. Not out of rage. Not out of revenge. But because you've evolved beyond the chase. So if you ever doubt your decision, remember this. You don't need her to validate your value. You just needed to remember it. And now that you have, you'll never chase again. Move in silence. Lead with presence. Subscribe to become him.